How are we doing, guys? We're back into it again. Opposition preview, Wolves away, and we've got two fantastic Wolves content creators with us once again. Dave, we've spoken before, the most exotic last name in football content, in the football content industry, to be fair. How are you doing, my man?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, great to be chatting again.
Very good, very good. And Jordan from Wolves Fancast, how's things, mate?
Yeah, all good. Cheers. How are you guys?
Good, yeah. We're all right. Apart from after Sunday where we got a bit of a spanking, but, you know, other than that, we were on that European hype train prior to that game, and now we're back where we're supposed to be, I think. But beat yous on weekend and I'll be banging that drum again.
Well, lads, obviously, looking into this game, when I first looked at the fixture list, I was looking at a game like Wolves away and thinking, oh, my word, I'm looking forward to that. And to be fair, after we played you earlier on in the season, I thought, I don't want to play Wolves again because you're just a nightmare to play against. But ever since that game, obviously, Raul Jimenez got an injury a couple of weeks later. I'm not saying you were a one-man team with Raul Jimenez, far from it. But obviously, since he's come out of the team, the form seems to have just gone off a cliff, so to speak. And obviously, Jimenez is still your second highest scorer, I think, with 4 goals, even though he's been out for most of the season. Is it fair to say that the problem with Wolves at the minute is simply that Jimenez is out of the team, Dave? Is that a fair reflection, or is it does it go a little bit further than that, a bit deeper?
I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons, to be fair. We've really missed Jimenez, and we've not really had a backup striker at all. We had Fabio Silva in, and I don't think the plan was ever for him to come straight into the first team. I think it was always a long-term plan that would slowly bed him in. So yeah, he's a massive miss, you know. But we've had other injuries and just lack of consistency. Really, it's made it difficult for Wolves. So yeah, he's a huge player to lose out on, and obviously that was at the start of December, and it took us about a month and a half to get another striker in. Really, so to having all of that, including all your mad Christmas fixtures, you know, we had a lot of games there without a proper, you know, number 9. So that's been a big reason behind our drop in form, I'd say.
Would you agree with that, Jordan? Would you say the big factor this season in terms of, it's not been a massive drop-off, don't get me wrong, but I think me and Joe were saying at the start of the season, kind of the staple teams you see as being in that kind of European hunt, Wolves are always going to have to be one of them. But this season, it's kind of dropped off a little bit, not massively, but do you think Jimenez is the big factor, so to speak?
I certainly think he's probably the leading factor in that, in the fact of, you know, sort of how we play and, you know, even how we played at Ellen Road. It was, you know, I thought we were quite comfortable. It was quite a decent game, but ultimately Jimenez had a couple, you know, 2 chances and one ends up in the back of the net, and that's the difference really. He's a world-class player, and I think that we're not necessarily toothless at the moment, but we've always, you know, we're struggling to create as well, and without a focal point like Jimenez as well, you can sort of see just a massive breakdown in the final third. And you know, our form has sort of turned a little bit in the last sort of 3 league games. We picked up 7 points, but it doesn't feel like we're playing like a team that have got 7 points in the last 9. And I'm sure maybe Dave would probably agree with that as well from a Wolves perspective. Like, yeah, like, you know, we're picking up points again. It seems to be turning, but I don't think we're back to the Wolves that we know under Nuno. So yeah, still feel a little bit vulnerable really. And you know, I think the tide is turning, but maybe a bit slower than what I anticipated it would do, to be honest with you.
Are we there, Oscar?
It's frozen.
I think it's frozen. I think he's in shock. I think he's in shock.
You're going to have to snip that up, I think.
Yeah. Oh, he's fast. I don't know what's going on there. Let me just boot this one out and let this new and rejuvenated Oscar in.
As soon as Jordan said they had 7 points from the last 9, that just I was thinking, wait. I'm going there. But no, to be fair, look, I mean, what do you think, Joe? I mean, obviously Wolves, I was expecting, I honestly thought, going obviously after lockdown of last season, I thought, you know what, Wolves will get a couple of signings in, keep Jimenez, and obviously they have kept Jimenez, but he's been out. I really thought Wolves could potentially push top 6, even top 4. You look how this kind of season's kind of developed. I mean, have you been surprised by Wolves in terms of how this dropped off a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. It's strange to see them below us in the table, you know, but it has been a strange season, hasn't it? I mean, it was only prior to the weekend we were sitting in 12th, and you had, like I say, Arsenal, Wolves, and Southampton all below us. And we know Southampton set off out of the blocks, to be fair. And Mr. Hasenhüttl was getting lauded all over the shop, and then they've dropped off a cliff themselves. And it is a surprise, but I mean, the loss of Jimenez is absolutely huge, isn't it? At the end of the day, and it's just one of them mad seasons. And look, they're a great side, and I said in the preview myself for the guys at Talking Wolves, it's a model that we as Leeds United fans look at and would want to follow. Just continue to increase the quality of player that you bring in. But as I say, it's like us. Say if we lost Paddy Bamford, we're at shit creek. We would be up shit creek. Like we would fall off a cliff ourselves. Who's there to replace him? We don't have an adult. Some would say Rodrigo, play him up there, but then it means moving others around. It's when you've got that focal point, that main man up top, you're always going to miss them, whichever side, unless you're a City and you have Pep at the helm, who doesn't need a striker at times, it seems. But it's always going to be a massive loss, and it's no coincidence that since he's gone, they have dropped off.
I mean, knowing the way modern football is, and obviously the way the Twitter era is, I mean, has there been any kind of, obviously for Nuno Espirito Santo and that lot, I know obviously, look, what he's achieved at that club is absolutely unbelievable, really. And so I know obviously there's been a big investment, but outside of looking in, to get Wolves from mid-table and Championship to regularly competing for European spots in like 2 or 3 seasons, has there been any kind of questions towards Nuno at all, Dave?
There has, to be fair, and I think Jordan's opinion may slightly differ to mine. I don't know, but I'm very much in that sort of Nuno in camp. But there have been many people that have amazingly called for him to go. I think especially around probably, I'd say mid-January, especially after the loss to West Brom. That hurt a lot of fans, and we were on a really bad run, really. And I think a lot of people have looked at that and they were thinking that there were other managers out there that could improve our current situation. For me personally, I think Fosun have probably learnt from old mistakes where they've sacked managers too soon and would regret it. And I think they understand with the current situation, what's going on in the real world, everyone's struggling, what's happening with our team, with the injuries that we were having. So, I don't think they're even going to look at that until summer at the earliest. But I think, like Jordan said earlier, we've hit a decent little run of form at the moment as we speak in the league, and hopefully that can improve. But at the moment, I'm very much Nuno in, but there has been whispers and people asking for questions to be asked for Nuno.
And what's your take on Nuno, Jordan? Is he slowly kind of changed opinion, maybe with that kind of little run Wolves are on, or is there still doubts there?
I mean, I'm very much sort of still in the ilk of Nuno in terms of if everything he's done. The reality is, since Raul's gone, and even maybe just before he got injured as well, sort of the football we were playing compared to what we had been playing dropped off quite significantly, and we've gone from being quite an explosive counter-attacking team to really lacking to create a lot of chances in games. And I think the criticism of Nuno at times potentially has been fair in some, to some degree. The West Brom game, sacrilege to lose to West Brom, especially at home with the disparity between the teams, and that was the manner of it as well. But I was under the opinion, and I put a tweet out there, and sort of got a lot of backing on it as well, was the fact of the manager picked out on that day, Nuno's picked a team, and ultimately senior players let you down. Like, we were second best to every second ball, third ball, basic errors. We ended up taking the spine of the team off. Cody, Neves and Martinho got subbed off, which says it all. And look, I think some of the criticism has been fair. I think a lot of it's unwarranted. I still don't think you're necessarily going to get better than Nuno at the moment, and it's almost sometimes better the devil you know. But I also can't really dismiss anyone who says he should go because of the football or because of the styles changed. I don't agree with it, but as long as you're valid with it, don't just say Nuno out, right, who are you going to get in? And no one's got an answer for that. That's just pointless. We've done that with McCarthy. We got rid of McCarthy, got Terry Connor in. Failed miserably. So, yeah, you've got
Leeds United legend, they'll have Terry Connor, Jordan. Be careful there. Be careful.
No. The thing is, though, at that point, we sacked McCarthy. We end up talking to Warnock, Kerbishley, all these sort of people. Then we end up hiring his assistant manager for the season. It's like, well, you might as well have kept Micking. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I think, like I say, the Nuno stuff has been harsh at times. I still very much back him and give him, at least give him to the end of the season. And let's see where the land lies. We picked up a bit of form. Our next three, not to to sort of downplay playing Leeds, who I think are a fantastic team. We've got Leeds, Newcastle, and Villa. If we pick up 7 to 9 points out of those 3 games, the picture looks a lot different than what it did 6 games ago. So let's just assess it after that.
That's bold, isn't it? 9 points from the mighty Leeds. Do you know what? I'm shocked at hearing that, though. I did not know that. Obviously, my bubble's Leeds United. I didn't know there was noise or some quarters of your fan base asking for Nuno's head. I think it's madness, that. And I mean this with the best intention, because I know Wolves are a massive club and they're a hugely supported club. But it's one of them things, isn't it? It's like, you get rid of Nuno, then who are you going to bring in? And then you don't want to be looking at the likes of, I know you wouldn't be, but the likes of managers you've just mentioned. I think he's done a fantastic job. I rue the day where some quarters of our fan base start calling for Bielsa's head, man. I thought it had come sooner, to be honest, when we were beaten by the likes of Man United 6-2, etc. But, he's a god in my eyes. I never call for his head. But, it's mad to hear that, It's mad to hear that.
It's a risk, isn't it? I think, obviously, if the form continues because obviously Wolves at the minute, 12th, in the table at the minute, and obviously only just scoring more than the goal a game. But at the end of the day, it's a risk, isn't it? It's a risk sacking Nuno at this stage, or even at the end of the season, because there's no guarantees who you bring in. You kind of got that stability there. When Jimenez is coming back, the goals are probably going to come back as well. You probably are going to improve on that goal tally. But I think something I do want to touch on a little bit, and Jordan did mention, and one other player it's probably worth mentioning, because me and Dave did sort of discuss this last time we spoke. I think he had just left at the time. Pretty sure he just left, was Diogo Jota. And obviously, to be fair, Dave, you did at the time did highlight Pedro Neto would be a top replacement, or as good as Jota. And obviously, as it turns out, Neto's done perfectly well. But is it fair to say Jota's been a bit of a loss as well in terms of goals from the wide positions as such?
In hindsight now, yes. I think at the start of the season, I think a lot of Wolves fans could understand the sale. But now, in hindsight, especially with the loss of Jimenez, we just didn't have any firepower, and I think that's something that Jota could have offered. I think Neto's still got a little bit to do to get to sort of that consistent level. But if Neto can get another 3 or 4 goals this season, I think for me that he's proved that he's good enough, and Wolves made the right decision to let Jota go. I think next season is going to be the biggest one to tell whether it's the right decision, really, because, I know this may not make much of a difference, but I'm hoping the fans will be back from next season. Clubs will start getting a little bit more money in. And I think Wolves, the last few transfer windows have not been great. So if we can have a really good summer now, invest in the right sort of areas, I think Wolves can really, show that they mean business again. But at the time, the Jota sale made sense, but in hindsight now, with the injuries and issues that we've had, I think a lot of Wolves fans, and obviously with his form that he started with at Liverpool, he was on fire for the first few games before he got injured. I think, I think a lot of Wolves fans would like him back if that was at all possible.
Are you a bit surprised, John, by how well Jota's because I always thought Jota was a good player, don't get me wrong, but when he went to Liverpool, and then all of a sudden, because I'm obviously from near Liverpool, so a lot of Liverpool fans around me are saying, I'm not even, just relentless, to be fair, saying, we're getting Rafinha next, this and that. But I mean, are you surprised by how well Jota's done there so far? Or, first sort of 9-10 games?
No, to be honest with you, it was probably my favourite player in this Nuno era. Just purely for, it wasn't not necessarily the best player as we've got, but he's still a very, very good player. And it's more so his tenacity and his work rate and his endeavour, and he had a bit of a street fighter mentality about him. And I just thought when Liverpool signed him, like my old man's a Liverpool fan, and I do actually go to some games with him and stuff. And my dad was like, I don't think he's up for it really. And I said, no, I'm telling you, he's perfect for Jurgen Klopp, like that style of football, front foot, in your face, and ultimately he was going to get more goal scoring opportunities at Liverpool than he was at Wolves. And to be honest with you, he was probably a 1 in 3 guy at Wolves in terms of chances. But when Liverpool are serving up 20, 25 chances a game and he's putting himself in the right positions, he's always going to score for me. And he's a good player. And like sort of Dave touched on, I think that, with Neto, he's a very solid replacement. And, he's arguably young player of the season, I think, unless, he's definitely in that mix with Foden and Saka, I think. And, there is still a little bit more to do from us. We've lost Jota's goals, and whether you like Matt Doherty or not, Semedo for me is a massive upgrade defensively. But we've lost basically Jimenez, Diogo Jota, and Matt Doherty's goal threat. So to be 12th, it's not that bad of a season when you contextualise it all, I think.
I mean, obviously, last time we played, you guys saw it out 1-0. Jimenez got from our point of view, a bit of a lucky goal, the deflection of Calvin Phillips. But I've got to say, in that first half, I don't know if Joe would agree with me. I thought that first half, I thought we were well on top and probably needed to score in kind of that period. And then second half, to be fair, you did take the second half, to be fair. You were much better in that second half. And we kind of didn't make the right subs. Calvin came off injured, etc., etc. I mean, how did you see that last game? Obviously, I know we're kind of going back 4 months ago, but and it was a largely forgettable game. It was like literally 2 or 3 chances in the game. But how do you see it, Dave? To be fair, do you see it as a fair result for you guys?
It was a strange game because I remember that first half, we just sat with 11 men behind the ball. And I remember at half time, a lot of Wolves fans on social media were saying, like, what on earth are we doing here? What is going on? And I think we invited so much pressure off Leeds. And then second half, obviously, Nuno had a word with him at half time. We seemed to go for it a little bit more. I think we had that really decent goal disallowed for being offside. And then, like you say, Jimenez's goal as well. But the first half was really, really strange. The way we sat back and almost stunk out the place. It was a strange approach, which we very rarely see. I know, like Jordan said, the football's probably been not as good as we want it to be this year, and at times a little bit negative. But the way we set up against Leeds is normally the way we set up against sort of the best teams in the league. But I think for Leeds to get something on Friday, if Wolves set up that same way, which I'm not sure they will, but for Leeds to get something on Friday, they need to try and score as early as they can, because the longer it takes, the longer the game goes on, the more Wolves will get into it. And I think we saw that a few months ago when we played you guys.
I mean, did you see it the same way, Jordan? Do you see it as a case of you did sit back and then maybe went for it as we tied a little bit? Maybe with sort of on the hour, 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think for me it was a classic blueprint of a Wolves away performance from what we've seen in the Premier League. Really, we sort of at that point Leeds was still a bit of an enigma in terms of a bit of an unknown, that you were front foot and it was just full, very much sort of Jurgen Klopp football as you were, and like Leeds were doing it and having great success with it and scoring 3s, 4s, 5s, and we do, from a Wolves fan, as a Wolves perspective, I sat there watching that first half and I felt relatively comfortable actually in the game. I know sort of it'd appear that we were sitting back a little bit, but in terms of where you've broken the lines and had like clear-cut chances, I can't really remember like absolute clear-cut chances. I know Bamford had one disallowed quite early on, and I'm on the same opinion of Dave. I think that when it comes to Friday, I think Leeds need to score within the sort of the first 15, 20 minutes for us to open up. I think if we, I can see it playing out very similarly to that first game where we let you have the ball and frustrate yourselves, basically, and tie yourselves into knots. It's not something new that Wolves fans have seen, but it's we'll wait for the opportunity to hit you on the break, and with Traore and Neto in full flow, it's not. You don't want to be giving those guys too much space to run behind you, basically.
I mean, did you see it the same way, Joe? I mean, I'll be honest, I thought we probably could have got something. I really did think we could have got something. But the wrong criticism from that game I can remember was we didn't create enough clear-cut chances when we were well on top. Wolves, I think Cody Cody and Max Kilman, I think, played that game, and they were unreal in that game, to be honest, in terms of at the back. And Semedo at right back had a really good game. I mean, did you see it the same kind of way?
I definitely think we should have had a point out of the game. I think it was so frustrating because obviously the lead up to Jimenez's goal. I mean, if Calvin doesn't try head it, it's not going in, and obviously Pascal Strauch slipped just before, which meant that Jimenez, came in. And I think we were at that stage as well where we were very rigid in terms of the man marking system, and we let Jimenez just run with the ball for a while before he took his aim and took his shot. And I think that's switched up slightly with Leeds United for me. They do seem to be breaking the man marking system a little bit more frequently if players are running with the ball. We've seen it recently. I think for me, it was just that back three. We just could not break it down. I think in that Wolves game, we could have gone for about 2 or 3 games and not scored a goal. We just couldn't seem to get past Bolly, Kilman, and who was it as well? Sorry,
Cody.
Yeah, we just couldn't break it down. So it might be much of the same. Is that because I know there was a switch up in the way he was approaching games? Is he still going with that back three with the wing backs, or is that still the case?
Back 4 for. I mean, it'd be interesting because it seems to have gone from 4 to 3, 3 to, because he used to always. I think a couple of months ago was the first time he ever went to a back 4. But I mean, Dave, I mean, is that something? What's he kind of gone with at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was against Southampton at home earlier in the season was the first time we've ever seen a back 4 under Nuno. And that was because at the time Cody was isolating. And I think Wolves fans just wanted to see something different. We wanted to see us go for it a little bit more, go a little bit more attacking. And that's what it offered us, really. And we've had good games and bad games with it. But more recently, I think, after a couple of the defeats we've had over December and January, Nuno just needed to shore it up and make sure we stopped conceding goals because we were conceding silly goals. So for the time being, we've gone back to the back 5, and like Jordan said earlier on, we've hit a nice little run of form at the moment. 7 points out of the last 9. So I could see us probably sticking with this formation for the rest of the season until the window, and obviously see who's available. And I think our issue is that we don't have an elite centre back. We've not really invested in the centre back department at all since being promoted. So I think that's really an area that Wolves need to strengthen if they ever want to go back to the back 4 system.
Just to jump in, Oscar, is there a switch up in terms of, I guess, at home you're expected to take the impetus, right? You're not going to have a similar style. Say that first 45, like you mentioned earlier, guys, it was very much attack versus defence, it felt. Although we didn't create, like Jordan said, any massive clear-cut chances, I genuinely felt we could have gone on forever and not scored. It was solid, to be fair, and obviously caught us on the counter. But at home, will we see such a rigid setup, Jordan? Will he sit everyone back for that initial 45?
I mean, we tend to, we tend to, when we play at home, we do tend to play an extra sort of 10, 15 yards further up the pitch. And it'll be interesting against Leeds because I think he'll see it, and I think he'll treat it as we're playing a Liverpool or Man City, because you just play one way. I think that the thing is, I think that if we ended up opening up against you guys, just because of how used to you are playing that sort of way and trade punches with you, I think you'll come out on top, if I'm being honest with you. We do want to evolve into this progressive, expansive team and possession-based style of football, which is where I think some of the Nuno criticism has come in, that he's come out and publicly said, this is what I want to do, and we haven't done that because the reality is the squad we've got, we can't play the same style of football as a Leeds, and not saying, player for player, that's different. Like, if you want to play high press, you've got to have physically fit, strong players. I'm not saying Wolves haven't got that, but Neves and Moutinho aren't going to do the running that, like say that's in and around that Leeds midfield, and that, but technically they're probably better players, so swings and roundabouts. So I think that, we'll probably end up playing to 10, 15 yards further up the pitch on Friday than what we did at Ellen Road. However, I still think we'll be quite cagey early on in terms of let you have the ball, soak it up a little bit, and then exploit the weaknesses. And that's, like I say, that's the Nuno blueprint, as it were.
I mean, one of my fears going into this game is that man Pedro Neto. I mean, it depends what side he'll play on. I mean, I'm really, really hoping now, Dave, when I ask you this question, you're going to tell me that Neto will play on the left on Friday, because I do not want him playing on that right-hand side up against Jonny Otto. I do not need this. Please, Dave, please tell me he's going to play on the left.
Well, normally you would start on the left. Normally, the front three, I think Jordan will probably agree, it's going to be Neto, Willian Jose, and Adama Traore on the right. But we swapped it at half-time against Southampton, and we put Adama on the left and Neto on the right, and that's when we scored both of our goals. It would surprise me if Nuno started that way. I think we'd probably start with with Neto on the left and Adama on the right, possibly in somewhere in the game, possibly swapping them back over. But Neto's been phenomenal, but Adama's been on and off as well. If Adama is on it on Friday, he's going to give that left back an absolute nightmare. And I'm not sure if, again, Jordan will agree, but I feel the last few games, Adama has really improved, just off the ball as well. His work rate seems to have improved very slightly. So I'm really hoping that him and Neto, if they are on it, and not just for the Leeds game, for the rest of the season, Wolves could have a really positive end to the season.
Do you know, just on that, Oscar, I remember...
Oh, Traore against us for Borough.
Yeah. No, well, not even that. Yeah, I mean, he tore us a new one that day, didn't he? But
Anita at left back. I just think he just wanted to retire at half time, to be honest.
I think we were all worried about him starting in that first game, and I don't know whether or not because Nuno went with that cagey setup away from home that maybe that's why he didn't want to go with Traore. But we as Leeds fans were all like, oh, nah, because the way we were playing at the time as well, and our fullbacks, well, apart from Luke Ayling, but the thing is, I think if Nuno, of course, he'll have done his homework. He puts Traore on the right all day long against Jonny Otto. I think he'll leave him on toast. I remember he came on because they were oiling up his arms. It seemed like several people were all like, "What's going on here, man?" It's sort of like putting this oil on his big guns. It was mad because I remember Dallas did a decent job on him in that second half when he did come on. Actually, to be fair, but yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about that, if I'm being honest. I'm surprised he never went with him from the start in the last game, to be honest.
Well, it was Dallas left back, wasn't it, on that? Yeah. Alioski wasn't even in the team at the time because obviously Robin Koch was still fit. And that's a bit of a blow, to be fair, because that was a great battle, that between Koch and Jimenez at Ellen Road. That was a really, really good battle for 90 minutes, that, to be fair. But I mean, the other thing I want to talk about with Wolves is obviously you've switched from a 4 at the back to a 3 at the back. And when Joe Wayman's face is just going to go absolutely crazy now when I mention this. I like my Spanish football. Nelson Semedo, I've seen him play at right back in a back 4. For me, whenever I've seen him play there, he is horrific defensively in a back 4 system. I'd be interested to see how he's done for you guys in that kind of system, because I'm thinking Jack Harrison, if you are playing Semedo there, I'm quite fancying that battle, to be honest. Is that been the case for Semedo at Wolves so far, Dave?
He's had a slow start, I'd say, but he's improved. I think he's been much better sort of since the new year, maybe the last month or so. I think he's improved a lot. I think, like you say, he was found out a little bit at right back, and he's still got a mistake in him, really. Just little things that can be avoided as well, like he'd give away a last-minute penalty at Villa, which meant we lost 1-0. And even the game against Arsenal, you could argue his defending was a little bit suspect. So, but I think as a right wing back, I think he's got an extra body behind him to support him. But a lot of the time, it's whoever's in front of him as well. I mean, at Barcelona, he had Messi, you know what I mean? So, it was always going to be okay, I suppose, going forward. But Wolves defensively with Adama, probably prior to a few weeks ago, his defensive work rate was very poor, and it left Semedo isolated at times. But I've got to say, since the reintroduction of this back 5, I don't know if Jordan will agree. Since the reintroduction, I think he's been okay, and he's offered a lot more going forward as well, Semedo.
Yeah, I think he's grown into it a little bit. I think he had a bit of a slow start, but we signed him from Barcelona, and then I think maybe 2-3 days later, he was in the starting lineup against West Ham. We ended up losing 4-0, and he was probably thinking, "What the bloody hell have I done here?" And at that time, we it was like, September, and as a Wolves fan, I'm thinking, how have we lost 4-0 to West Ham? Because usually pummel them every game, and, proof in the pudding, they're up there this season, to be fair to him. No, I think he's solid enough, and, coming from Barcelona, and it didn't help that the videos of Alphonso Davies tearing him a new one, did it in the 8-2 and all that sort of stuff before we got him. But I think he's been more than fine, and I think that, the thing that Wolves fans are concerned with, I think he gets a little bit of unfair stickies, the price tag. And, I think in total, with add-ons, it could reach £37 million. And do I think he's worth £37 million at the moment? Probably not. But I don't think I do think he's an improvement on what we had in terms of defensively with Matt Doherty, and I do think it's an improvement on that front. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a battle of the wingers versus the fullbacks Friday, like you said. I really like Rafinha for you guys, and I think Traore and Neto versus like say Alioski, and I mean, right back for you guys. It's been chopping and changing a fair bit. Was Shackleton there the weekend?
Yeah. I think
if Shackleton and Alioski, I think we quite fancy that one, to be honest.
I would as well, mate, to be fair.
When you say it like that, I'm thinking, you got neither of fullbacks, to be fair, or traditionally fullbacks. I mean, but the interesting thing, in fact, just going to go to top man there, Jack. Fantastic. Super chat. I'll never know how Wolves signed Semedo from Barcelona. What a player. Do you lads know why Barcelona let him go? Well, I'm going to guess. I mean, to be fair, he got absolutely crucified after that 8-2 game. To be fair, is that probably a big factor in it, to be fair, Dave?
Possibly, and I think Barca are going through, obviously I don't know all the ins and outs, but they're going through a bit of a transition at the moment, aren't they? I think they're due to their finances and stuff. I think any sort of okay player that they could get a bit of money for, I think they were probably cashing in on, really. So, but like Jordan said, it's been a slow start, and for a couple of our players coming in from abroad, never played in England before, in such a strange time, not playing in front of fans or whatever. I think he's done okay, considering the circumstances.
Let's just flash that up again, Oscar, because I know Oscar's a massive Barca fan. You see,
it is a sinking.
So it was quite funny to see last night. Obviously, I mean,
check that scoreline.
Yeah, I mean the third from Mbappe was just absolutely beautiful, wasn't it, man? So yeah, I think it's good, man. Messi will be gone in summer and that anyway, so it's all good, man.
But the interesting thing is, obviously, left back. I believe you had Jonny Otto out for pretty much the season. So who will it be at left back then, Jordan? Obviously, because our star man at the minute is Rafinha, and who's he going to be up against them?
It will be Jonny. I think he's. For me, he's one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. Not even just the Wolves, in the Premier League. He's that good. Like I've not since we signed him in the first Premier League season. I've never known anyone. I've never known him have a bad game. I've never known anyone skin him in terms of having him on toast. Like he's just so reliable. He's such a good defender, and it'll be a key battle because I think Rafinha, he's in my fantasy football team and has been for a while now. But I think it's a big battle, him versus Jonny, especially because he's left-footed. Johnny's naturally a right-footed left back as well, so he's going to be coming in on the stronger side as well. So it's going to be a big battle, I think. But it'll definitely be Jonny for at least an hour, maybe 70 minutes, and then we'll probably roll out Marcel to give him a kick as well.
We've heard this before, though. I mean, Wayman, when we come up against left backs, James Justin was, the best left back in the league, and in fact, was it Justin who got forced off at half time against Rafinha?
No, it was on the other side.
Castagna, wasn't it? But,
yeah.
I mean, either way, Rafinha, he's got the tendency. He's got the tendency. To be fair, I'm looking forward to seeing that battle. To be fair, but something I do want to touch on. To be fair, Dave, because we spoke quite at length about this last time, was the topic of Helder Costa. Now, obviously, Helder Costa. Former Wolves player. I don't know how you describe him. If you describe him as a great player, I don't know. But what we did discuss was, at the time, Helder Costa was probably in the best form he'd been in for Leeds. He scored in the first 2 games, been very influential, making things happen, having his best spell as a Leeds player. And Leeds United, at the same time, had just bought Rafinha. And we spoke about Costa going into that game quite a lot. And your exact words to me were, and it's completely turned out to be true, to be fair, was that as soon as Diogo Jota turned up at Wolves, it was almost like Costa's belief in himself just disappeared because he saw someone who was as good as him, if not miles better than him in training. And to be fair, I think sure Joe Wayne will agree with me, Rafinha's come in, Helder Costa has not been the same since. Any surprise, really?
I don't know. It's such a strange one with Costa because he was arguably our best player and one of the best players in the league when we first signed him that first year where we were under Paul Lambert. And off the top of my head, I think he had a little injury right at the end of the season. So it took him a while to get back into the team under Nuno. And he only started hitting form right at the end of that promotion season. He had a little run in the team. Then in the Premier League, he was just so poor. Like every time he was coming on, you just, as a fan, you just felt, like we're not going to get anything out of this game if Costa's coming on.
Did he give it away every time he came on, Dave?
Sounds so familiar.
Probably, I think he just did too much. You know what I mean? Just like, just lay off.
Every time he comes on, man, he concedes free kicks, Oh, mate, honestly.
I think he had one, off the top of my head, one good moment, which Georgian will probably agree. It was Spurs away. He scored a really good goal. At Wembley, and we beat them. But other than that, there's very few memorable moments of him in the Premier League. First season in the Championship, he would be, if that was it, and we didn't have him on loan again or didn't sign him after that season, I think he'd be in a lot of Wolves fans' best 11s for the last sort of 5 years or so. But the 2 years after that are just far from memorable, really. And the fact that we got so much money for him from Leeds still baffles me. I can't believe we made a profit on him as well.
Do you know what I think?
They've committed crimes, haven't they, Wolves, to us?
Yeah.
Barry Douglas as well.
Let's be honest, though, right? When we signed Barry Douglas, it was the envy of the Championship, right? Like, it was like this guy, top assist, and it was a bit of a strange one. Why Wolves let him go? And then he was pants at Leeds. He was literally pants, genuinely. Oscar was a massive fan of him, but for me, he just flattered to deceive. I think he assisted from a corner in the first game for Cooper. And I remember saying, this is what you're getting, man. This is what we're going to get. And he just fell off a cliff. And now he's at Blackburn. Then we pay what we did for... I mean, we got Barry quite cheap, to be fair. But then we're paying what we're paying for Costa. And yeah, like Wolves, from a recruitment perspective, or whoever's made that decision to say, do you know what, these two probably... Because I wonder if you guys were maybe shocked at the sale of Barry Douglas at the time as well, So... I don't know, maybe you weren't, but it was a bit of a surprise to me. But they've had our pants down well and truly, to be fair, because, Costa, he came off the bench, to be fair to him, because people say I'm giving him unnecessary stick because he scored against Arsenal. But he came off the bench and gave the goal away, or give the ball away for them to score their fourth, And, okay, yeah, he did all right after that, but, even against Leicester when we won the game, the counter-attack from their free kick was due to a foul by Costa because he came on 5 minutes foul. Maddison stood over a free kick. I'm like, what is this guy doing, man? It is really frustrating because, like you said, we're paying 80 million. We bought Rafinha for 70, and Rafinha's just been electric. So it's great business from Wolves, really, to be fair. Were you surprised with the Barry Douglas one, Jordan? Or
I suppose more so just because of him being in the team of the year and, like I say, his assist and output for Wolves. Having watched him, at the time, I thought it was good business we sold him, and I got a bit of stick for that. But the reality was, we were in the Championship and we were battering teams, to be honest with you. And it helps when he's got Willy Bolly in the Championship helping him out and cleaning his backside for him, really. Going forward and a set piece and delivery, he's got a wand of a left foot. But when he went to Leeds, I sort of kept my eye out and sort of watched him. And as soon as I saw him in a back four, I thought, right, okay, that's why. Because, when he joined Wolves, it was this guy's coming from Poland, Scottish. You'd think you'd almost hear of these players. Yeah. And he's come and played for us, and he was fantastic for us that season. But yeah, then as soon as I saw him in a back four, I thought, yeah, that's probably why we've shipped him. And the upgrade was Jonny, who I've just said, for me, arguably is one of the best defenders definitely one of the most underrated players in the whole Premier League for me.
I mean, to be fair, those two teams that went up for the Championship, your team and our team, to be fair, I think certainly your team, in terms of the players you had Ruben Neves for a year. I mean, I remember watching Ruben Neves in the Championship, and it was like watching Zinedine Zidane playing like a Sunday league game. He stood out that much compared to the other players. I mean, I remember you and O'Kane going to try and tackle him and thinking, just stop. Just stop. Kind of thing. Just stop it, kind of thing. But I mean, obviously Ruben Neves is one I look at. I mean, he can strike a ball. He's got one of the best strikes of a ball in this league. I mean, the goals do seem to have dried up a little bit. Obviously, we're going into this Leeds game. The goals did dry up for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and of course, he doubled his tally against us. I mean, is that a bit of a threat? Obviously, Moutinho as well. Quite a bit of threat from distance, Wolves, I always feel. I mean, is that the case, Davey? Can we expect maybe possibly a little bit of threat from midfield as well into that battle?
Possibly. I mean, Moutinho, he's not really been amongst the goals other than when we played Arsenal. He scored an absolutely sublime goal. Neves has been a weird one, actually. I think up until probably, off the top of my head, around New Year, his last goal in the league was about 12 months before that. But since the new year, he's actually third top goal scorer in the Premier League, the whole of the Premier League. He's got 3 of them are penalties, to be fair, but he scored 4 goals since the turn of the year. So level with the likes of Salah, Kane, and so on. So I think he's only behind Aubameyang and Gundogan, who started off the season quite well. So yeah, Neves has been all right. I think he's probably one of our more underrated players. I think, people think he's a bit like a match of the day player, really, where he'll score a screamer every now and then and everyone screams about him. And if he's not scoring goals, he's rubbish. But his work off the ball, his work rate overall is fantastic, really. So, he's a very, very good player, and Wolves are quite lucky to have him, really.
I mean, do you ever fear losing him, John? Because I always hear on this side of the country, to be fair, that Liverpool are looking at Neves and that lot as a potential, because obviously Jordan Henderson's not getting any younger, as a potential future kind of like Henderson kind of replacement. I mean, is there ever any fear of losing any of these? Obviously Jimenez as well, to be fair. Any fear of losing any of these players in the summer, possibly?
Yeah, I think that fear is always there. And I think that the journey of us as a team and being a Wolves fan at the minute, you sort of have to accept that, when, Jorge Mendes is around, that he's going to scratch your back, but then you're going to have to scratch his at some point as well. And I think that I do fear that we could lose these players, and I'm really, I genuinely think that if Jimenez hadn't had the injury he had, and I want him to come back and play football. He may never even return anywhere near the level he was, after such a horrific injury. I think Raul would have been gone this summer anyway. I don't know what Dave thinks about that. I think it'd have probably been time to cash in terms of, he probably wanted one big payday and one big last crack at playing for Champions League football and all that sort of stuff. I think, you talk about Raul, Neves, Neto, Traore to a lesser extent, all in that same breath of people, they're always going to have suitors. They're that good of, people are always going to be interested in them. So there is always that fear. But the way that the way that's has tended to work up until this summer is we sell someone and we get someone better in. Obviously, we sold Jota, and we never replaced Jota, and then Jimenez got injured, and we haven't replaced Doherty's goals, like I said earlier as well. So that's where I think we are struggling. It's more that goal output than more so than anything else.
Do you know that though, Oscar? Just hearing the lads say that, I think that's where we're at as well. Like, people won't like to hear it, but I'm already resigned to the fact that in a couple of seasons, Rafinha will move on, and we'll look to bring in other players. And we have to follow that similar, like Radrazani, our chairman, likened it to Leicester. They bring in players, they move them on for hefty prices, Mahrez, Maguire, and then bring in, look at the business they've done with Fofana, paying 30 for him. He'll probably go for about 100 in a couple of seasons' time, you know what I mean? So it's smart business, you just have to accept it. Just on Traore though, lads, like, obviously, he was linked a couple of seasons ago. Like, his numbers are shocking, though, aren't they? Like, in terms of goal contributions and, goals himself and assists, it's quite poor for a player that's ranked up here. What do you put that down to? Is he? Because I remember him being in the Championship, give him the ball, he'd knock everyone out of the wall. But his final ball was gash for a period of time, you know. And is that still the case now? Does he frustrate you as a player?
Yeah, most definitely for me. I think that if you look at Adama Traore, if you break down the characteristics, you know, he can run 100 meters in 10 seconds. His dribble output's exceptional. Like, he's electrifying. You know, he has got a thunderous shot on him, like we saw a few times last season. But I also, on the flip of that, realised that that's probably why he's at Wolves and why Barcelona let him go. And that sort of, again, that's probably a yardstick of where we are as a football club as well. That, you know, I think that because of the success we've had the last few years, that we should be breaking that top 4 or that top 6, wherever you are. You know, a lot of these clubs would want Traore in the squad just because he's just a joker in the pack. And, you know, he last season he was phenomenal because he was coming off maybe 1 in every 3 games where he was just on fire. But the reality in his Wolves career, other than that, for, you know, the first season and this season, I think he's had like a good game 1 in 6, 1 in 7. I don't know if you agree with that, Dave, as well. That sort of, it's the consistencies why he's at Wolves. If he had the consistency of last season, if he replicated last season this season, he could go anywhere in the world. He could pick his club. I'm pretty sure of it. But that is the harsh reality as why he's with us and not elsewhere.
The interesting one. I mean, it's a bit like that with us, to be fair. You know, there's a lot of players. I mean, even Patrick Bamford. Bamford's been superb this season, but he has had games where, say, for example, Newcastle away, I don't know if you'd agree, Joe, where Brighton at home, where he wasn't quite at it. And it's just natural. I think any kind of player kind of outside that top 6, other than the very top ones, I think Rafinha, to be fair, might be slightly different. I think he is consistently very, very good. But yeah, no, it's an interesting one. But just to talk a little bit more about Leeds, lads. I mean, Dave, what are the main kind of threats you've seen from this Leeds team? Obviously, Rafinha is probably an obvious one, but I mean, as a team, is there anything you specifically fear in terms of our press? Anything that makes you worried going into this game?
Yeah, I think obviously when you guys came up, you know, Bielsa worldwide, possibly not so much in England. I think he's slightly disrespected by a number of English fans, just because.
Good man, Dave. Good.
Yeah, I would say, I think everyone is just, maybe jealous is too strong of a word, but jealous that, you know, the media give him a lot of praise. But you look at him and, you know, the praise he gets from other managers worldwide. You know, I think he's disrespected quite a lot.
Mate, we've got clowns linking him to Dean Smith, for fuck's sake. I mean, this is what we have to deal with on a daily basis.
That's the biggest disrespect I've heard. I
think,
exactly. I felt, you know, it could go one or two ways. You know, he's had ridiculously short stints at some clubs, you know, where he's fell out with the board and so on quite quickly. So I am quite surprised that he's lasted this long at Leeds. But now, you know, he's got you guys back in the big time. I think, you know, like you've said yourself, Joe, earlier, you know, he's like a god to some people now. But the way he's got you guys playing for this season, regardless, I think if you finish anywhere sort of between 8th and maybe 13th, 14th, I think, you know, that's such a good platform for you guys to build on. And like Jordan was saying earlier, you know, the big clubs, you know, sharking around some of your big players. I think if you're able to keep them, that would be huge for next season for you guys. Get the fans back at Ellen Road as well. That'll be an absolute fortress next season. But in terms of players, I'm surprised at how well Bamford's doing. You know, he was so hit and miss in the Championship. I thought, no way is he going to come up to the Premier League and do well. Same as like Ollie Watkins at Villa, for argument's sake. I didn't think he'd do close to as well as he's doing at the moment. So, you know, Rafinha, like you said, I thought possibly see a little bit more from Rodrigo, but it sounds like, you know, he's been in and out of the team with some issues at the moment. But, yeah, you guys have got a really decent platform to build on, I think. And if you could keep your big players and invest this summer like you have been, I think you're on for decent things in the Premier League.
Nice, man. Dave can come back. Jordan's just going to undo all
Jordan
his
can slag you off now.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I won't have any of them.
He's lucky to be compared to Dean Smith.
No, I completely agree with the Bielsa stuff. It's read a bit of a football anorak, and you know, across the world, you know, Bielsa's lauded, isn't he? And Pep's he's like Pep's mentor. Like Pep's just he's like wax lyrical about Bielsa, and yeah, you know, I think that Bielsa's getting chucked in with the we all hate Leeds from the wider community and all this sort of stuff. Oh, it's Sky Sports Leeds and all that, and I think that's unfair on him as a manager. I just really enjoy watching you play, and I think there's that much football on TV at the minute that I'm actually at a point now where I don't watch every game because it just feels so saturated. But Leeds are one of the team I would still watch every week just because I think it's the football's fantastic. And in terms of players, 100% agree with Dave about Bamford. It was hit and miss in the Championship, but I'm really happy for him. He seems like a real down to earth sort of guy, hard working, and some of the finishes this season have been top drawer, haven't they? Calvin Phillips is a great player, Rafinha as well, and I think you've got a nice little team going. And like you say, sort of Leeds looking up to Wolves as that blueprint. I mean, we've finished seventh back to back. That's unheard of, and I don't think any team coming up from the Championship really, it's fair. Not whoever comes up from the Championship this season, like say Brentford hypothetically win the league, I think their aims are going to be coming 17th, not top 12, top 10, and I think it's credit to you guys that you're up there and you're mixing it in with, I'll put us in there, the Southamptons, West Hams and Evertons. And I think that's probably a fair yardstick for where I guess Leeds as a fan base would position themselves as well. I think right now, you've obviously got the platform and you're a massive club and, you've been in Europe, you've had those sort of nights and, you want to get back there. But I think the Premier League's changed, hasn't it? So much since you did it back then. And I think that if you finish in top 10 in this sort of Premier League without breaking the bank over the odds, then I think you're doing quite well.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's good. It's good, man. I've lapped both of them up there. I was loving that. It's nice, man, isn't it, Oscar? You're on mute, man.
I mean, you could say it's playing up to the crowd, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is, to be fair. I mean, I'm a bit gutted because I was looking at this game and I love going to Wolves, to be fair, as an away game. Really good atmosphere, to be fair, at Molineux and that lot. You do that hi-ho Wolverhampton at the start and that lot. It's like, when we go in the first time, I mean, what the hell's this kind of thing and that lot. But I'm gutted that's obviously it's going to be behind closed doors. But I mean, if I push you, mate, not so much for predictions at this moment in time, but how you see the game panning out itself, kind of the pattern of the game, what you're kind of expecting, Dave, as such.
Well, I think in terms of the actual result itself, I think this is a game probably both sets of fans are looking at and thinking we can win it. I don't think it's a game where one team is a clear favourite. I think both teams have got every right to go and win the game. And like me and Jordan both said earlier, I think it'll be for sort of maybe 20 minutes or so, Wolves will just sort of sit back slightly and just sort of assess the game and soak up a little bit of pressure and then, slowly grow into it. Similar-ish to what we did last time. So, yeah, I'm going to be intrigued to see how Wolves line up because we've had a nice little run of form coming into the game. So it'll be interesting to see how positive Nuno is going into the match or whether he'll completely replicate how we played last time at Elland Road.
Are you thinking the same, Jordan, or are you thinking maybe he might go a bit more defensive first half and try and just get it to 0-0 half time?
Well, I do think he'll play it like he did at Elland Road a little bit and sort of what, me and Dave both said earlier on, sort of that first 20 minutes, keep it relatively tight. But there's going to be an outcry now from Wolves fans for the fact of how we played the second half against Southampton on the front foot. And, well, we battered them for 45 minutes. I mean, the previous 135 against them was appalling, but we forget about that. But that's sort of and that's another frustration of Nuno is that fans can see the attacking quality we've got. And sometimes we do play quite reserved or shackled, I guess. And, if we just go at teams, and I'm of the opinion now that, we're not going down. Leeds won't go down. I think the bottom three is pretty much the bottom three because of how much the gap's there anyway. As a Wolves fan now, I'd just like to see us just play with the reins off and let's just attack and play free-flowing football and see where it gets us. And could be dangerous against you boys, to be fair, but we haven't got anything to lose. You know what I mean? Sort of, it's unrealistic. It's quite unrealistic. We're going to come in that, in seventh spot, which could get a Europa League spot. It's not out the, it's very much defined on how we do in the next 3 games, I think, for the rest of the season. But, I'd like to see us, play on the front foot and have a good go. But I do think it will be the back to the Nuno mould of keep it tight for 20 minutes and then try and hit you on the break. And I just fancy us big time, unfortunately, when it comes to our wingers versus your fullbacks.
It's really interesting. Like, I suppose hearing Jordan speak there as well, it makes me feel proud, like where we at already, because I'm in the same mindset as Jordan. Like, I looked at Arsenal, Wolves, Southampton, and Villa and think, right, they're the clubs. Let's see where we're at after this point, you know. Whereas if you're, I don't know, Fulham or whatever, you just think, oh, please try get a result, you know, somehow. I mean, they drew tonight with Burnley, so that doesn't help them. So, you know, I think it was 1-1, so they're done for. But I think from my perspective, the worry is obviously it doesn't look like Calvin's going to make it. If Calvin doesn't make it, what do we do in CDM? A lot of people in the comments will be fuming, but I still think he goes with Pascal Struijk, which hasn't really worked there. I don't think we've got another option. People will disagree. It's well up for contention. But I think the main thing for me, Oscar, that worries me is obviously we've won 1 game out of 5 without Calvin in the Premier League. That was that 3-0 against Villa. And that was for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was because he wasn't on the pitch. But yeah, I think in all the games as well that he's not played, obviously we conceded 4 against Arsenal, 4 against Leicester, and 4 against Palace. So he's, you know, and 1 against Brighton, which to be fair we were dog dirting, and they can't score goals. If they can score goals, they probably score 4. You know what I mean? We were really poor. So it is a little bit of a worry for me. It'll be interesting, like Jordan says. I think there's 2 ways to play Leeds. It's that low block, you know, like you did it away and catched on the counter, which you've got the players to do. Or you do what Arsenal and Man United and Spurs do, or did. It's just press us really high and play us at our own game, because ultimately the quality will tell, like it did against Man United, like it did against Arsenal. You know, it's a different kettle of fish. Like when... I don't know, when you're playing West Broms, Fulhams, etc., they're on a like championship level squad, which arguably you could say we have. But I mean, man for man, Wolves are better than us, you know. So if he does come out with that, you know, that press, that high press, I'm not sure he will. Then they could get a result. There's 2 ways for me. People are saying Arsenal have given the blueprint, but you know, Tottenham employed the same tactic Man United did. I think if you press us high and players at our own game, or you do the reverse and low block and catch on the counter. But I just think for me, Calvin's such a massive loss. Hopefully Rodrigo's been pictured, so he might come back in, which gives us a little bit more flexibility with who could go in the CDM. I'm not sure, but away now, take a point. I think 1-1. I'll take that, me, to be fair, but obviously, I go into every game thinking we can get a win, man. 2-1. What about you, Oscar? What are your thoughts?
I agree with you. I think it totally depends on how Wolves play us. I would love nothing less than Wolves to sit off us, to be honest, because I think, obviously, start of the season, to be fair, I think the big difference why it worked so well for Wolves at Ellen Road was because we had Costa on right wing instead of Rafinha. I think it is. I think Rafinha is the man who just breaks teams down like that. Because to be fair, I can't really think of the last team who's just completely sat in for 90 minutes and got a result against us. I can't really think, other than Wolves and Leicester. I think since then, and since Rafinha's come to the team, I think we could become a lot better at that. Obviously, there's always the worry about the counter-attack if Wolves do play that way, but I'd much rather they did that than try and press us, because if they try and press us and play on the front foot, and the midfield I'm thinking of as well, Neves and Moutinho versus Dallas and Click, it is a bit of a mismatch, let's be honest. Yeah. Especially Click, not totally on foot.
You have to take your Leeds rose-tinted glasses off. Someone said in the comment, Wolves are not better than Leeds. They're bloody awful. But come on, let's strip it back.
Moutinho is like...
if we go back, but that's it. That's the beautiful thing about Bielsa. He can turn water into wine in respect in terms of individual players. I've said many times that had we have any other manager with this squad in the Premier League, we'd be down there with Fulham and West Brom. We would, you know. But he's the way the system and how he can just improve players is crazy. But yeah, I mean, Wolves man for man are much better than us, and sometimes that tells, doesn't it, Oscar? When you come up against Leeds United, that quality can. But normally we, after a poor result, we come back, you know, fighting, and we've done all right. We haven't really gone on a run of losses during the the season, apart from maybe like the Leicester Palace, them 2-4-1s. Other than that, we've normally come back and got positive results. So I'm hopeful, but it'll be a good game, man. It'll be a good game.
It'll be a good tactical battle, I think, between Nuno and Bielsa. I think it will be. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar-ish to the one at Ellen Road. I think Wolves will probably play a little bit more on the front foot, but it is, as Jordan says, when I thought I feel okay going into this, but when Jordan was talking about the wingers versus our fullbacks, if we haven't got like the option to put that Ayling to right back, because I'll tell you what, if Ayling against Neto, that'd be a really interesting battle, that for me. But such is life. It looks like it's going to be Ayling at centre back, and we're going to kind of have Neto and Traore running at our fullback. So that's definitely a mismatch. There's a couple of mismatches, but from my point of view, I'd say, I think obviously Wolves not been quite as solid defensively this season. I'd say there'll be chances for both teams. There's no doubt about that. I mean, another one I was going to talk about, Dave, was Rui Patricio seems to have had a bit of a not great season by the looks of things. I mean, he did well at Ellen Road in that game, but he seems to have been making a couple of mistakes lately.
It's been a strange one, really. I don't think he's made... There's been a couple of mistakes, I've got to say, but like we've been very leaky this season, but I'd probably put that down to poor defending more than poor goalkeeping. I'm not going to say, he's been absolutely perfect and none of it's his fault, because we have seen some mistakes. In particular, we dropped 2 points against Newcastle, and that was just poor goalkeeping and poor organisation from him, I think. But then we see like games like against Southampton, he made a couple of great stops, and there have been a couple of games towards the start of the season I felt he was really decent as well. So yeah, I still think he's a good goalkeeper. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the best goalkeeper in the Prem, but he's one of the better goalkeepers, I think. But yeah, it has been a very strange season so far for Wolves in general, really. And I think with us leaking goals, a lot of the time you do look at the goalkeeper. We've got some fans wanting John Ruddy in net, but then he seems to drop a clanger every game he plays. No disrespect to him, it's just how he's been, really. So yeah, I think Patricio's still a good goalkeeper. We've just been unfortunate, really, with how leaky our defence has been.
Mate, it's football fans in general, man. Meslier had a stinker at the weekend, and they all want Kiko Casilla in goal, and they forget what he's absolutely garbage, man. Not all, I say all.
So we've already, I don't know if you agree, Jordan, even against Southampton, you could argue their second goal was his fault or a poor pass from Den Donker. But like you look at almost every other game, there's just a stinker in there, like Stoke earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Even for the 23s, when he played a little bit in that Papa John's trophy, he even dropped a couple of mistakes. But yeah. I mean, I don't know if you would you put him ahead of Patricio? I don't know.
I can't even speak to anyone who even raises that conversation. You know what I mean? I just think, you know what I mean? It's just like you've got a European winner, 100 cap Portuguese bloke who is, he's, for me, I think this season. This season, I think he has made a couple mistakes, but also when we've given up chances, if you're looking at XG and stuff, when we've been conceding goals, it's because of clangers from centre halves or we're giving away stupid penalties. So it's like, But last season for me, he was arguably our player of the year for the first part of the season as well, and I think he's in that conversation of being. Maybe in the top 5 in the Premier League. I think maybe not on this season, but certainly last season, the year before. There's obviously standouts there, but would I swap him for a Lloris or anyone like that? Absolutely, I'd keep Patricio every day of the week. So yeah, I think he knows he could do a bit better. But the Southampton on the weekend, he made 2-3 world class saves, and I think he's coming back to it.
Well, let's go for some predictions then. Before we sign off, let's go for some predictions. I'll go to the Wolves boys first. Jordan, go on. What are you saying prediction wise?
I think I can see it being 3-1 either way. But I think there'll be goals. I just think it's sort of like an analogy with boxing. Is if someone doesn't knock them out quite early, then it's just the longer the fight goes on. I do think, if we keep it tight for 15, if we don't concede to in the first 15, 20 minutes, I can see us taking over, basically. And like I say, I just really fancy Traore and Neto to have a field day. But if you score early and then we've got to come on, it plays into your plays into your hands then, doesn't it? And I think that, you've got quality yourself where you can hurt us. And yeah, I brought Bamford in for my fantasy football anyway for that double game week. So I don't want him to score against Wolves, but yeah, if you could get a few against Southampton for me, that'd be brilliant.
Nice.
So if Bamford scores, you secretly think, "Oh, I conceded," but
that's why he's done it, man. He really
5 points there, 5 points there, 5 points there. Dave, what are you saying, mate?
Well, like I said earlier, I think both sets of fans will be hoping they can, or sort of, thinking they can get a win out of it. I'm always, I always go with my heart. I always go with a 2-1 Wolves win. It's always a safe prediction. I think both teams to score, but your own team to come out on top. But I believe it's going to be a very close game. Depending on how Wolves line up, I think Wolves are really going to dictate how this game goes. If we can get an early goal ourselves, which we don't see many of, but if we can get an early goal, I think we're just going to sit back and make it really difficult for Leeds. But, that could work the other way. I think if Leeds get an early goal, it might be difficult for Wolves to grow back into the game. I think Bielsa has got the players and experience to sort of see out that game possibly. So it's going to be a tough game, but a very close one. Like Jordan said, it could easily go either way.
And what are you going with, Wayman?
Dave's bang on for me. When Leeds United go in front, we very rarely lose. Do you know what I mean? And I think if we were to concede first against Wolves, we'll find it rock hard to break them down, So the first goal for me is key. But yeah, I'm going 2-1 Leeds, away win, fingers crossed, because we need to get back on that winning. I need that in European nights, man.
The Champions League music will be playing if we do win this game. I'm going to agree. I'm going to go 2-1 as well. I think the big thing for me is that Jimenez isn't there. I think that was a big part of that last game. Having that outlet in behind us all the time to worry about. If we lost the ball, the ball. You only need one ball over the top, and then Jimenez is in on goal, kind of thing. And look, I know obviously William Jose's come in. Fabio Silva looks promising, but it doesn't quite have that same. They can quite easily score against us, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite. I don't quite fear it as much as I did Raul Jimenez, to be fair. So I think obviously with Rafinha in the team, I think we might find it a little bit easier to break Wolves down than we did in the last game. I think that's a big factor. Obviously, if Rodrigo comes in too, it gives you that extra kind of someone who can make those late runs into the box as such. But it's one of those. Whichever way the game goes, it's not going to surprise me. There's no clear. I think Dave said before, there's no clear favourite in this for me. Obviously Wolves on paper are probably the favourites on paper, but in terms of form and performances, I'd probably go more for us at the minute. To be fair, based on what I've seen from Wolves, but it'll be a really good game. This really really good game, and obviously the first goal is going to be key. But I'm going to back us here. I think 2-1 Leeds.
Yeah, I think that's fair, mate. That's fair. 2-1. Be a good game though, won't it? Either way, it's going to be a fantastic game. Yeah,
100%. But I guess we'll leave it there anyway, lads. Dave, where can we find you?
Yeah, so it's at Talking Wolves on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Obviously, Wolves previews, reactions, fans' reactions as well. So yeah, check us out.
Do you do the watch along?
I don't do watch-alongs now, but I do the reactions straight after the game. I need to get on the watch-alongs. Everyone asks me that every week, so maybe
I was going to say, we've got no competition then, Oscar. Get in there. Yeah. Tell your Wolves fans to come over.
Come over here if you're a Wolves fan. Come over here. Jordan, where can we find you, mate?
Yeah, so it's at WWFC Fancast on Twitter, Instagram, and now YouTube as well. Traditionally more of a podcast station, and we've just ventured into YouTube around Christmas. So give us a like, follow, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Everything helps. And if you prefer a podcast, have a download and listen to us after every game. We delve into that. So all the best. Nice one, all the best for Friday, lads.
Yeah. Looking forward. You know what? When it's on a Friday, if you lose, your weekend's ruined. It's even worse. Like for me, when you play Saturday or whatever, it's still bad. But when it's a Friday, I can't enjoy any other football. Like it's like, nah, I'm switched off from it now for another week. Get away. It's so
the best or the worst in the world, isn't it? I mean, I remember that West Ham game when we had to go on Corey's thing at like midnight, and I'm thinking, I love Corey, don't get me wrong, but I was thinking, oh, this is like, it's just like, he's probably watching this now, but it's like, oh man, it was the worst thing in the world. But anyway, guys, make sure you like the video and hit that subscribe button, hit that 21.1k. And yeah, plenty more content to come out this week. Tomorrow, we've got the big match preview. Friday, starting about 7 o'clock, we'll be doing our live lineup reaction. 7:15, the watch along will begin. Then probably about just after 10 o'clock, we will do a live post-match once again for you and live player ratings later on in the night as well. Saturday, we then going into the Southampton game. Just get involved, guys.
Keep it locked.
Keep it locked. And yeah, we'll be doing a cheeky quiz on Saturday as well. So make sure you get subscribed, guys. And we'll leave it there anyway. I'm going to play the intro as the outro for the first time. So excited. So excited to do this. So excited. Let's go. See you later, guys.